Everybody, how are you doing today? We are Steve Rosenberg and my very good friend Steve Davis with Real Wealth Academy. I am with Mind Property Management. We are here in the great state of Texas, right? And we are going to talk a little bit about what is going on with Texas. So we are trying to figure out a little bit on how this works the best. So Steve and I are not the most technologically advanced, but we'll do the best that we can. Today we're going to talk about the environment of Texas, what is going on in the real estate, both single family and multifamily. We're going to tell you why we are experts and who we are and why we are talking to you tonight regarding this. And at the end of this, you're going to have a chance to ask us questions. If you do have questions, go ahead and please put them in the comment section, or in Instagram, you can put them in the comment section as well. And we'll do our best to answer them as quickly as possible and get you as close to the right answer as we can, as we know it today. So again, today we are going to talk about Texas. We're going to give you an understanding, especially in today's market and what's going on in today's market, why it is so important that you focus on the goals. And I think that, you and I were just talking about this before, how people are starting to get that lob off, right? They're starting to drop on the intensity of what they were doing. And maybe they're starting to second guess if they're doing the right thing, if maybe they're going down the right path and what they're doing. So we want to make sure that we talk about that. And, Steve and I both have gone through, how many cycles have you been through? Would you say?
At least three.
At least three. I've been through at least three as well. You've been through more than three. You've been doing this almost 30 years, man.
You talking about up and down?
I'm talking. Yeah. I mean, you've probably been to a dozen.
Yeah.
When you cycle. I mean, three majors. Three majors. Yeah, three majors. But we're going to talk a lot about what you should be doing, what you should not be doing, and really how wealth is created when it comes to real estate. So again, that's our goal today. Also, we're going to let you know how you can look at understanding how to get mentored, how to get coached. Steve Davis is a mentor. He owns his own business. He's been doing it for many, many years, and he'll explain that in a little bit, what he does. And we're going to give you the tools, right? And again, we're not asking anything from you, just to open up your mind and be willing to be educated, because that is really how Steve and I both believe in this, and we both have grown this way. We want you to grow as well doing this. So click over here a little bit. I'm trying to click on like 5 different things here, and I'm not the best. One of the things I think is important to understand, that when we go through these kind of environments that we're in, I hate to say emergency. I hate when people talk about an emergency when it comes to real estate, because when I think of an emergency, I think of being in an airplane at like 40,000 feet and having an engine on fire with 300 people.
Yeah.
I don't quite put this in the same category as an emergency as that. That's just me, but that's how I think of emergencies. But what I want you to realize is that some of the things that you have to do, and some of the things you have to realize, is that you can't do everything on your own, right?
Yeah.
You've got to have a mentor. You've got to have a coach. You have to have a team. You have to understand that you're not the smartest person in the room, and you have to be okay with asking for help and asking for advice, because at the end of the day, that's why we're all here. Mind Property Management, we are operating in 16 regions of the most investable markets in the United States. We have the tools and technology, and we've got to make sure that we have all the things that are necessary to ensure success. And I think it starts mentally. I think it starts with in your head and what you're doing. So just a little bit about myself. I started, actually, which is odd, after 9/11. So 9/11 is what started me down this path. And I didn't have a backup. I didn't have a backup plan. I needed to have something else to do, because the airline, being an airline pilot, was not going to be there. So I learned about real estate. It was about 2002. So there was no YouTube. So I had to go to the library. I had a library card. And I went to the library and I got my library card and I got my stuff done. I learned to flip and wholesale properties, which I don't think it was called back then. But what I did learn to realize is that everyone that was wealthy was tied to real estate that I was learning about. And I wanted to be those people. And I was able to take that knowledge through being coached from Steve, actually, back in 2003, I think. Bought an apartment complex in a partnership. Ended up building that, sold it, bought a bunch of single family homes, and ended up turning that into a property management company that was worth a couple $1 million that we ended up exiting and selling, and became a partner of Mind. And we now work with Mind, which again is in 16 regions. Very, very smart people, very, very educated in the investing world, and operating on a level that I love the fact that people want to be better and want to educate, and that's what they believe in, which is what I believe in. Steve, tell about yourself a little bit.
Well, my path is very similar to yours. I started off wholesaling and flipping, and then eventually moved to single family houses. I had to wholesale and flip because I had bad credit, no money when I started. Then as I generated money and generated credit, I started buying single family rentals, then moved over to small apartment complexes. My first apartment complex was 10 units, and eventually bought 200, 300, 400, 500 units till I had about a portfolio of right around 4,000 units. And now I teach and mentor others how to do the same thing.
So you've owned 4,000 apartment units.
Oh yeah. Well, let me see, people misunderstand that.
Right.
Very few people own an apartment complex by themselves.
Yes, good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
I had a lot of partners. There could have been 20, there could have been 30 in each deal. There were 11 apartment complexes total. So I had a lot of partners, a lot of good people.
But essentially you were running multiple businesses.
Oh yeah.
By owning all these different, these are all different businesses. Now, let me ask you this. How much did you know when you first started compared to what you had when you said 11 complexes?
Yeah.
How much did you know on apartment complex business model number 1? And how much did you know by the time you got to number 11? And I know you did hundreds in between by helping people, but the ones that you owned.
Well, I'll tell you this. When I bought that 10 unit, I had owned single family rentals.
Mm-hmm.
And in my brain, running a single family was the same as running an apartment. But with the wisdom of hindsight, you know what I knew about apartments? Zero.
Yep.
When I bought that 10 unit, I knew nothing about how to run an apartment complex.
Yeah.
Compared to now, it's a million miles away.
Yeah. It's amazing what you didn't know, and we're going to talk about that. And we're going to go dive a little bit deeper into Steve's background, because he's got a lot of experience in the multifamily, and you guys are going to learn a lot from this. But one of the things, we're going to talk about 3 things tonight, 3 major things. First, we're going to talk about the Texas real estate market. How is it being affected by COVID-19? What we've learned, Steve and I have learned from previous downturns, which we've learned a lot. How to actually understand what a deal is and how to find that deal. More importantly, how does that look for you? Because a good deal to me may not be a good deal to him, and it may not be a good deal to you, because we're all different, right? We all have different goals. And making sure that your outcome and your end goal is aligned with the strategy, I think, is one of the biggest things people mistake. And when they don't have that when that string at the end is not attached firmly, times like this is when it falls off the wall, right? And that's when people lose faith, and because their why is not strong enough to keep them going down the path, right? And they let something like this, and whether it's, information and news and fake media and all these other things telling them, and people just throw up their hands when it's not reality, it's just perception. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about how to me, it's all about, just like you growing your businesses, just like Mind in 16 regions, how do you do this? How does somebody go from owning one house in Houston, Texas, or Lubbock, Texas, and go, I want to own properties in Phoenix, I want to own a multifamily somewhere else, I want to be in a partnership, a syndication. How does that happen? Because you don't physically change, right? You don't grow a third arm, right?
Right.
You mentally change. You become
mental.
A different person.
All mental.
And so the way you changed was mental. And, I think that what people are going to realize is, when it comes from doing things here today, especially with everything going on with COVID-19 and all that stuff, you're going to realize that the way you operated is different post-coronavirus, because, virtual showings, not being able to get to your properties, even things like even having your phone in the cloud that some people don't have, even having your documents on a server as opposed to cloud-based. These are things that people don't think about until times like this, right? And so we'll talk about that, because I think this emergency, whether you call it coronavirus, whether you call it SARS, H1N1, the recession of 2008, 9/11, the dot-com, right? You change the name and the title, but it's still the same. It's a correction of the market, right? Whether it was voluntary or involuntary, whatever the case may be, it still is a correction. And every time you correct, you get a little bit better, right? And you learn. And the ones that don't probably don't stick around. And I think it's important to understand that you are running a business when you own real estate. And if you are not evolving in that business, I think you'll go out of business. I think you'll cease to operate if you don't evolve.
Yeah, there's no coasting. You've got to constantly be growing, or you're going to stagnate, and stagnation leads to sickness and death in business. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, let me ask you this. When you got apartment complex number 1 and you learned what you did you evolve by the time you got to number 11?
Oh yeah, every purchase. In fact, I'm still learning today.
Yeah.
I learn new stuff every day. I'm a better operator than I was 30 years ago, but I guarantee you in 5 years, I'll be better than I am today.
So here's the question. If you went back to, and I think about this a lot, if I went back to the first deal I ever bought, or the first deal I ever flipped, which was hundreds of deals ago, probably the same for you. Number one, would you have bought that deal, and would you have operated it differently of what you know today?
Absolutely. Let me tell you a story.
Okay.
My genius. I took that 10 unit, raised the value by about 200,000, and sold it.
Okay.
I didn't understand cap rates.
Okay.
That thing was worth 200,000 more than I sold it for, that I didn't know.
Right.
So with the wisdom of hindsight, I should have sold it for $200,000 more than I did. I would have made 400 instead of 200. Absolutely. You learn.
And what would that have rolled into over time?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would have just steamrolled. So again, this is what's so important. So what I would suggest, if you don't have a pen and paper, I would say get a pen and paper. And this is going to be some good knowledge information that you're going to learn. And we want to, we're going to take questions. We're going to talk a lot, but I want you to learn something today, because you've got two guys here with, I've got about 20 years, you've got almost 30 years experience, and we are doing this for free. And all we want to do is educate you in this time frame. If you do not walk away with something, and you don't walk away a little bit smarter than you did than when you turned on and flipped this switch, then you probably should not even be here. Then I would say you're probably wasting your time, and you're wasting our time. So I would say, if you're here, be here to learn, right? And if you're not, then don't be here. So I think it's important to understand that when we talk about the coronavirus and we talk about what's going on, I'd like to get an understanding from you, because a lot of people, everybody loves Texas. Who doesn't, right?
Sure.
What are you seeing in the multifamily world? And I'll talk a little bit about the single family after, but what kind of info are you getting?
Well, I've looked at a lot of the payment of quite a few syndicators have given me a call and told me about their troubles collecting rent. And I've seen everything from people who have only collected 80% of their rent to people who have only collected at 87. So it looks like it's about 15 to 20% of the people are having trouble paying their rent.
Okay.
So, but you've got to understand, when you're taking 15 to 20% right off the top, that's your cash flow. So what's going to happen is all these people who don't know how to run apartments and own them, and we're living paycheck to paycheck, if you will. In other words, just barely eking by.
Like over leveraged? Would that?
Not necessarily over leveraged,
Okay.
Generally mismanaged.
Okay.
Their occupancy was already at 85%. Their rents are $50 below market because they don't know what they're doing. They don't have a mentor. They're arrogant. They're greedy. They won't buy information. So they go out there, they buy this apartment, try to learn it by trial and error. When something like this occurs to them, they get slaughtered.
Yeah.
And they are going to be putting their properties on the market.
Well, It's funny, and I mean to interrupt your flow, but I always tell people, everyone says like, hey, Steve, why don't you do apartments? And I say, I've done apartments and I have nothing against them, but it's a different business model.
It's totally different.
And I tell people, I say, everyone I've talked to has never thought that there would be a downside. And I tell them that pendulum swings both ways. And when it swings up, you can add a lot of zeros. And when it swings back the other way, it'll take a lot of zeros out of your pocket. And if you're not capitalized, if you're not running it correctly, if you're not leveraged, you will see it reaping the rewards. And maybe that's when I get in and buy the apartment complex because it's mismanaged. So, I think, I'm curious your thoughts. I know that there's been a lot of syndicators out there that are doing syndication. And I always think it's funny when I talk to someone who's been doing syndication for a year or two, and they're giving me advice on real estate. And I'm thinking, this is when it's starting to top off. It's kind of like the .com when taxi cab drivers were giving me stock advice.
Right.
I'm thinking everyone's an expert. So when you start getting experts on here, what do you think is going to happen with a lot of these? Are the syndicators, are they okay? Are they going to be over leveraged? What do you think?
I think competent syndicators are going to be fine.
Okay.
These syndicators that are out there on their own, without a mentor, without a team, they're in trouble because if you're trial and erroring it instead of learning, in other words, we'll call it a college education, instead of getting an education in how to run an apartment and then go buying an apartment, many syndicators who are out there by themselves have put together deals and they really have no education.
Yeah.
So they're running them incorrectly. Their vacancy is high. Their rents are low. COVID comes along, boom, they get slammed. So they're going to be selling their apartments at deep discounts in the next few months and years. So I think there's going to be a tremendous, I like to call it a catastrophe, by the way. You were looking for a word instead of emergency.
Yeah.
I like the term catastrophe. We got the COVID catastrophe, but you have to understand that with every catastrophe comes an equal and opposite opportunity.
Yeah.
And the opportunity is that right after this is over, single family and multifamily is going to be on sale. And we're going to be able to buy stuff at deep discounts.
What do you think the cap rates are going to do on multifamily when it comes to multifamily in let's say, Houston or Texas? What do you think they're going to do?
The cap rate is a very complex thing.
It's
almost like too much to go into at this point. All I know is prices are going to drop, and the good syndicators who do have a team and are educated are going to be picking up those deals.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that this is when you're going to see people, it's every business. And again, I always tell people, you own a business, every business has fall, winter, spring, and summer. So they've got the seasons, right? And we're in fall and we're about to go into winter and it's going to get dark. And spring will happen. It may not be spring for them. It may be spring for someone else because, again, I think that more wealth will be created in the next 12 months in real estate by people capitalizing on the deals because people that did not run their businesses correctly. And I think that in single family, there's a lot of people that I've spoken to that are over leveraged. There's a lot of people that were not treating their tenants correctly.
Yes.
So the tenants are going to leave because they don't realize that that is their client. And there's going to be a lot of people that don't understand how businesses work and they did not have the right funding. They did not have a disaster plan. They did not have a catastrophe plan. They didn't have, like right now, I would be looking at saying, okay, this is the time to start shoring up some capital to go buy.
Correct.
And this is the time to go in because the people that are going to be wealthy, the ones that are going to look back and go, I'm glad I did that, are the ones that were just lining up their pieces on the chessboard, ready to start the game. Because the game hasn't even started yet, in my opinion. I think it's going to start in the next probably, I would say 2 to 3 months.
Well, COVID, I think is going to go another month and a half.
Yeah.
At minimum, maybe 2 months. But the minute that COVID is over, the response to the COVID is over, I think those people are going to start putting their properties on the market at discounted prices and start liquidating.
Well, we've already seen people that are already saying, I just want to sell and get out. Like they have not even touched the water yet to know if it's hot or cold. They're like, you know what? I'm out. I want to get out of this. And I'm thinking to myself, that is, that just tells me that their why and their goals are not strong enough to withstand why they're doing this. Because when I've talked to people, I'm like, okay, you got into real estate for a reason, whether it was for your family or for your security or for your retirement, but there was a reason you got into real estate. Getting out this quickly, there is nothing that says that it is going to go bad or good for you unless you know something that no one else knows or you didn't prepare. And so, one of the things I think that, and I've said this several times to other people on other shows that I've been on, from flying airplanes, they teach us a certain way to deal with an emergency, right? And I was trying to think of how does this relate to dealing with an emergency that people are calling this. And I think it's relevant, and I'll get your opinion, but when we deal with an emergency, and again, that's at 40,000 feet with 200,000 pounds of fuel and 300 people on board and an engine on fire, that's more of an emergency to me in life and death.
That's scary.
That's scary, no doubt about it. And so when that happens, the first thing we're taught from Boeing is relax and take a breath. Just sit back and assess everything that's going on and really look at the big picture, because the jumping into knee-jerk reaction is not the answer when it comes to this, right? The next thing you have to do is assign duties. When they say fly the airplane, so it's like, in the flying the plane scenario, it's I'm flying the plane, you run the checklist, you talk to air traffic control. So you're dictating, so you're being the leader of the plane, of the cockpit. Same thing in a business, same thing owning real estate, right? That's when you need to start saying, okay, I need to start talking to my lenders. I need to start talking to my leases. I need to start talking to everyone and be the leader and start dictating, not a manager. Because I think a lot of people misunderstand the definition of leadership and management. A lot of people are managers and they call themselves leaders, and they're not. From that, identify what your problem is. And this is, I think, where everybody gets stuck. Everybody focuses on this big picture problem of all the news in China and New York. Well, I'm in Houston, Texas. All I'm worried about are my properties in Houston, Texas. And my problem, if you want to call it that, is, am I going to get my rent this month? Everything else is irrelevant. Those are not my problems. But they let that noise attack them, and they let it start swaying them to go, well, maybe that's my problem, or maybe that's my problem. And they don't really ever identify what their problem is. And we're taught, identify the problem, isolate the problem, then work the solution.
Yeah.
And work the solution for your problem. I don't want to work the solution for China. I want to work the solution for my tenants in Spring, Texas, to go, how do I fix your problem? Because we're on the same team now. We're all in the same boat. And then how do I communicate that with everybody to make sure that everybody understands what we're doing?
What you're describing is when you have your why in place, you don't get distracted.
Absolutely.
And if you're distracted by all these other things, you don't have a big enough why.
Exactly. That is so true. And I think that, a lot of people are asking, what should I do right now? So a lot of people are wondering, should I sell or should I buy? What should I do? And again, I get people, and you'll have the opportunity to, if you want to talk to myself or you want to talk to Steve, you'll be able to click on something, or you can ask us in Facebook or Instagram, wherever you are, whatever platform you're on. What would you say right now? What is the best advice you would say? Buy, sell, syndicate, flip? I mean, what would your advice be? Now, understand, people are everywhere.
Yeah, buy and syndicate. I'm going to be buying everything I can get my hands on. The syndicators are going to be buying everything they can get their hands on, because real estate's about to be on sale. There's going to be deeply discounted properties in both the single family and the apartments, and it's time to buy. And I certainly wouldn't be selling right now because prices are going to drop.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what's important, what he said, is when you are looking to sell, this is, you have to change your strategy, right? And so I look at it as the outcome of where you're going, and you've got a strategy to get there. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But sometimes that strategy, it's like flying an airplane, right? We're going from Houston to Hawaii, right? And it may be a straight line. It's one heading to there, but we don't fly one heading. Sometimes we got to go a little bit north of weather, and sometimes we got to go a little bit south, and then there's airplanes. So we're just doing this zigzag all the way to Hawaii the whole time. even though it really is a straight line.
Right.
So what my point is that sometimes you may think that I'm a flipper or I'm doing wholesaling. But there's a time where you sit there and say, you know what, that strategy doesn't make sense. I will hit the hill if I keep going down that path. What I need to do is I need to change my strategy, and maybe it's time to buy and syndicate. Maybe it's time to start buy and hold. I've been talking to a lot of short-term rental people that are sitting there looking at these properties that they have in Airbnb and their arbitrage and all that stuff, and their vacancy rates are, 100% vacant, basically.
Right.
And so they're sitting there saying, what do you think I should do? And I'm like, why would you keep going down this path? Like, you have to change your strategy. This is obviously going to make you bankrupt. This is the time that you reassess and you turn this into a buy and hold, and you change your strategy. And one person that I was talking to, he said, but I'll lose money. I'm like, what do you think you're doing right now?
That's funny.
You're losing money as we're speaking, and you're worried about losing money? Like that makes that doesn't even make logical sense. And I think it's important to understand and really think about what your strategy is. Look, you can always change, right? You can always audibilize. You can always do different things. But once you pass that problem, quit looking in the rear view. And a lot of people, they're so busy focused on the rear view mirror that when they're driving their car, no one's looking out the windshield. They're focused on what happened and how they can go back and not hit that pothole again by staring at the rear view, and then they end up hitting a tree. So I just think it's important to really think about that. And again, you had mentioned this, and I think it's important to understand you've got to remember your how. I'm sorry, not the how. You've got to remember your why. The why is what will carry you through. And I'm curious, as you started going through this, and look, you don't need to mentor people. You don't need to coach people. What is your why? I'm curious, why do you keep doing this?
Well, my why is mentoring. In other words, I don't like real estate that much. Now, I love it the way it has built wealth for myself and my family. I love it from that point of view. But my joy, my excitement is teaching. I just love to teach. I love to mentor. So I spend all my time mentoring, but all my money's in real estate.
So the mentoring, I mean, you've invested a lot of money to be a mentor. I mean, as far as, investing in yourself, educating yourself
right.
In assets and all that stuff. What would sway you from not doing this? Like, I think of myself, like I love speaking and I love getting on stages and I love, connecting with people. And that's kind of my why. I like to see that click in people's heads and go, I get it now, right? That's, as far as speaking and influencing, that's my why. Is that your why, is being a mentor?
Very similar, very similar. In other words, nothing would change. I'm fortunate enough to have found what brings me joy and what I love to do, and I'm going to stick with it. It is my why. Yeah,
that's the thing, is you've got to understand. I'm just looking at some conversations here on the Facebook. As this is going, don't want to mess this up too much, because I will, and then I know I will do something wrong and exit it, which I'm gonna get out of this. So one of the things I want to talk about now is I'd like to talk a little bit about the goals and strategies, and I'm curious your take on this as we do it. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to attempt to share my screen very quickly, so that people can be not so tired. And on Instagram, sorry, but you're not going to be able to get to see this, but it's on Facebook as well. So I'm hoping everyone can see this, but I think right now it is so important that people focus on the end outcome, because I got to tell you, man, I keep seeing so many people wavering. And I mean, daily, it's almost like they were hard charging. It's like people at the gym, right? On January 1, right? They got the new shoes, they got the Rocky album, they're running on the treadmill. And, by the end of January is less and less and less. And I'm seeing the same thing with people they look like they're getting beat down and beat up. And I think one of the problems is they don't have a plan and they don't know their outcome. And I think of number one as knowing the why, right? Knowing the goal that you're going to go. How do you describe people to know their goal?
Well, I always refer to Stephen Covey's work, where he talks about begin with the end in mind. You have to keep that end, which is also expressed as why, in the forefront of your thought at all times.
Yeah.
In other words, when I was building wealth with real estate, I wanted to be home to romance my wife. I want to be there to raise my kids. I wanted to be there at the gym. My why was time. I wanted to buy that real estate to produce a second stream of income that would allow me to quit my job and spend more time with my family and doing the things I wanted to do. That why burned in me so hard that I never lost sight of it. And that's why I was able to achieve what I've achieved. You've got to have a why. You've got to begin with the end in mind. Design the life that you want and do everything to achieve that. And don't let anything distract you. COVID's not distracting me from what I'm going to do. It's postponed it a little bit. That's all it's done.
And it probably will make you stronger in certain aspects. And you know what's funny is I think of like 2008. And I remember in 2008, it was like the world was now flat and we were at the edge of the cliff about to go off the edge. The world, I remember, will never, ever, ever be the same. Unprecedented, as I love to hear.
Right.
And it will never be the same again, right? That was 2008. When you look at it on a chart now, it is a little blip. And I'm thinking, that was the unprecedented that I remember. I mean, I went through it all. And I remember watching banks close. And I know that this could be considered bigger and everybody has their reasons. But at the end of the day, I think this will end up being a blip. And there will be a lot of wealth created. There will also be a lot of wealth lost. And I think the ones who create the wealth and keep the wealth are the ones that have the why. And what I think of is, I think of it as the destination that they want to go to. Like, and again, I try to simplify it. We're going to Disneyland. Disneyland is our goal. And, you know, for the people watching, if you cannot clearly state, like Steve did, what your goal is, how will you ever find it? And it's like when people ask you, hey, you know, Steven, is this a good deal? And they, you know, they put it like 2 inches from your face because you need it that close. But, you know, when they say, hey, is this a good deal? It's like, well, that's like you saying, hey, Steve, can I get directions? The first thing I'm going to say is, where are you going? And if they say, oh, I don't know, well, then how can I help you?
And there's the problem. People sadly don't know what they want out of life. And the reason I believe they don't is because they're taught by people, parents, professors, high school teachers who also didn't know what they wanted out of life.
Exactly.
So they're trained, and it's just a vicious cycle. They never got out of life what they wanted, and they taught you. How can they teach you how to get out of life what you want if they can't get what they want? It's a vicious cycle. Yeah. You've got to have a mentor that's where you're trying to go if you're ever going to get there.
Absolutely. And then the next part is the strategy. I think of the strategy as like the freeway. So it's like, okay, if we're going to go to Disneyland, and Disneyland is our end destination of life, and that's the place that we want to be, where we have our time, we have our life, we have everything we want. The freeway is what's going to get us there. So for example, if we're going to Disneyland and we're taking I-10 to 405 to Beach Boulevard to, you know, to Huntington Beach, and we're getting off and we're going down there, and that's how we're going to get to Disneyland, and that's the strategy. Well, right now, there is a traffic jam on the 405 freeway, and we have to get off of this freeway and take another way to get there. That's how I think of what's going on in the situation right now. If you're an investor and you are going down a freeway and that freeway is jammed, right now the brake lights are just getting put on. We don't even know, right? We got people jumping out of the car and walking because they're so scared because they don't even want to get stopped in traffic, and they don't even how bad of a traffic jam it is. The ones that are the investors that really still want to get to Disneyland, they're going, well, you know what, F it, I'll just take the streets. I'm going to go this way, I'm going to take that street, and you're changing the strategy. The last thing is the tactic, which I think of as the car that we're driving. So many people focus on the tactic first and the car, meaning I'm going to buy this house because it cash flows. I'm going to buy this duplex. And then, you know, you and I have had these conversations with people where we ask them, well, why are you buying the duplex? Well, because it cash flows. Well, does that get you to where you want to go? Is that part of your strategy to get you to your goal? Oh, I don't know. Well, then why would you buy it? Like, the car, the tactic is the last piece of the puzzle. And well, actually the last piece is the exit strategy, which is the exit of the freeway. And understanding the exit of the freeway is one of the things that many people miss. Actually, number 1 and number 4 are the most missed. They don't have goals and they don't know how to get off the freeway. So they just drive around, right? They're just driving their cars and they don't even know why they're doing it. And then what happens? Something like COVID-19 happens and they're like, you know what? I'm out of here. I don't even know why I'm doing this. Real estate sucks and I'm gone. And you don't like real estate, but you like the results of what real estate gives you.
Right.
And I think that's the difference that a lot of people need to understand. You've got to understand the exit strategy based on your goal, based on the strategy and the tactic. Now, you and I have talked about this, the 5 strategies of buying real estate. What is your perception of these?
Well, you got cash flow, equity capture, debt pay down, depreciation, appreciation. Those are really the 5 ways that real estate makes you money. And really, any deal that you buy, if you focus on the cash flow, you get the other 4 by default as a rule. Well, you really have to focus on 1 and 2, cash flow and equity capture. Make sure you got equity capture and you got cash flow. The other 3 come by default. So those things work together to help you achieve any goal that you have financially. And then, of course, when you achieve your financial goals, you also capture your time goals because you now have your time back.
Now, you and I have had the conversation before where Steve and I don't see eye to eye on this, because I know that, let's say I bought a property in San Francisco, mm-hmm. and I said, you know what, I don't need the cash flow. I'm going to buy 3 positive geared properties, just like you talked about in Houston. And then I'm going to buy a negative geared property in San Francisco or New York or Los Angeles, which is not going to go in cash flow. But number 5, it is going to go up in value a lot quicker. Now, the question is can you sustain the negative cash flow? So for example, let's say I had a property that was giving me the cash flow, it was giving me all of these things, and it was giving me, let's just say $300 a month. Okay. And the $300 a month and I was going to have a 10-year play on this. So I'm going to have this $300 a month for 1 year is going to be $3,600. And I'm going to carry this for 10 years, and I'm going to make $36,000 in cash flow on paper. And it's going to go up, I don't know, let's say it goes up from $150,000 house in Houston, and it goes up after 10 years, what would you say, 210, 220?
Yeah, something like that.
So let's say 220. So it's gone up 70,000 plus 36. So let's just say it's gone up 100. You made $100,000, right? Made 100. Now, let's say the opposite of that is I've got a property in, we'll just say San Francisco, and I'm losing $300 a month. And again, I'm now, let's say it's same numbers. And now over the course of 10 years, I've lost $36,000, okay, mm-hmm. in cash flow. I'm negative cash flow, 36,000. But now this property went from 700,000 to 1.1 mil. So 1.1 mil from 700 is 400,000 minus the 36. I'm still up 360. So I don't think there's a right or wrong way. If I couldn't take the negative cash flow, I wouldn't do that deal, right? I'd be putting myself in bankruptcy.
Plus, that's all speculation. That's
true. That's true. That's a different game.
Right. I don't like speculation. And I don't like go ahead and buy it. Negative cash flow, you need the tax deduction. So you're going to lose $36,000 so you can get a $10,000 deduction on your taxes. Yeah. You just lost 36 and you're getting back 10,000 in tax. You still lost 26.
Yeah.
That's not.
You never buy something on for tax savings or whatever. But I'm just saying, I know some people that they will buy 3 positive geared and then they buy 1 negative geared. And that's just their formula. And it's just that's the formula that works for them, and they're comfortable because they know the positive geared offset the negative geared. And based on historical data. And again, I think it's just a strategy. And the great thing about all of these is you can pick whichever one is most important based on your goals and based on your strategy and based on what you want. And I don't think there's a right or wrong way as long as it is in line and you're on the right freeway to go to your goal. What I think the biggest mistake people make is that they sit there and say, you know what, I'm just going to buy this property because I like it. And with no reason, rhyme or reason or anything. At least if you think it through, you're ahead of the game. Now, the question is where do you find these deals, right? What city, what state, what county, what country matches these deals? So I've got the slides here. Instagram, you don't get to see this because you're not on Facebook, so sorry. And I have the clicker, and we're in Houston, so we're going to talk Houston numbers. So interesting fact, you probably know this. Maybe you don't know all this. I doubt. I'm sure you do. Facts about Houston. Fastest growing population in the country still to date. It has the largest medical center in the world. If it was its own city, it would be the 16th largest city in the United States.
Wow.
There are 2 international airports here, right? You got Southwest Airlines out of Hobby, and you got United Airlines out of Bush. The tax base alone of those 2 airlines to stabilize the taxation of the government here in Houston, well, when they're flying, is really good when they're actually in the air. On the ground, they don't do so good. Second largest exporting port in the United States. Do you know why?
I do not.
About 5 years ago, they widened the Panama Canal to be the Panamax Canal. The Panamax Canal can now take a super tanker through the canal.
Wow.
So because Texas is a right-to-work state, it's cheaper for them to bring cargo into Texas than it is to take it, go over the Rockies, and go into Long Beach, San Francisco, or Seattle, which is very heavily unionized and very expensive. It can be on the ship and through the canal on its way to Asia before it's ever even loaded onto a dock in Long Beach.
Gotcha.
So for every ship that comes in, 2 go out full. Next, obviously we know NASA's here.
Yep.
Despite what people out of Houston think, NASA still owns about half of Houston, south of downtown Houston. All those government buildings are controlled by NASA. Every city, every sport except hockey is here.
Yep.
And rugby. We just got a rugby. And cricket. Did you know they're building a cricket?
No.
I saw it's up on 290 by Prairie View. The North America's largest cricket field is being built.
Man.
Like 12 fields. I've watched it. I don't understand it, but I'm trying to understand it a little bit. But yes. Obviously the energy capital, which we all know.
Yep.
And you know, the thing is, and this is my understanding is they don't drill in Houston. This is where the headquarters are.
Right.
So a lot of people have the misunderstanding that this is where they drill. This is not where they drill. And the Port of Houston, whether it's $1 a barrel or $5 a barrel, those refineries are going 24/7.
Yep.
Do you have any rentals over there in the port?
I do not, but I do have some clients who do.
That used to be one of our strongest rental areas, was in the port. Now, here's some numbers for pricing of Houston. The average home is $159,000, and at 21% below the average of 202. And the average monthly rent is $1,440, which is 0.91. So you hear a lot of people talk about the 1%
Right.
rule. So that's 20% above the average. So the average is 1427, which is the average is 0.7. So we're at 0.9. So when I look at Houston, just in the single family, this is before the dip that's about to hit.
Right.
So think of the dip. And, you know, I mean, I don't know what your experience is, but I remember when we were owning real estate, which I still do, but during the recession of 2008, prices of rents did not go down.
No.
Because all these people become renters.
They went up.
They go up.
Mine went up $100 a unit.
Yeah.
On my single
That's
family.
huge.
Yeah, it was huge. Huge.
Yeah. So it's just something to think about. Now, how do you find it? Obviously, if you want, and again, you have a chance to look at this, we've got this software for single family. They do multifamily as well. I clicked here. I got Houston, Dallas, and Austin. This is pretty cool. I'm just going to show you a quick thing. This is if you wanted to buy properties in there and you have, let's say, $1 million because you wanted to retire and you wanted to finance it. It actually says, okay, we have 13 properties that match your criteria. You'll have a portfolio value of 3.7, investment of 1.1. You'll get rent of $30,000, 5.4% yield, and you'll get a 25% return. What's cool is it actually shows you this cool little chart that shows you cash flow. It shows you appreciation, principal pay down, and it actually shows you where you start making your numbers. So this takes a 30-year forecast based on historical data, and it shows you that. Now, these numbers mean nothing if you don't understand how to read them.
Sure.
Which you could look at this and go, well, I have some questions about this. I want to know some specifics because you're educated in this. And this is where it makes sense to have a conversation with someone like Steve, someone like myself, to understand what this means and what this means for you. But if you held these 13 properties, they would be worth $12.8 million and you'd have cash flow of 1.4. So,
Man,
you know, it's like
nice lifestyle.
Yeah, these are good numbers. These are very, very simple properties, right? Here's the property that it found. This was built in 2012, 117 a square foot. It's a 3-2, nice house, right? Standard Houston property or Texas property. That's a standard property that you would get as a rental, right? It says in that neighborhood, the amount of renters are 18%, amount of homeowners are 82%, white collar employees are 63%, and blue collar are 36%. It's telling you what that neighborhood consists of so that you're buying this saying, am I buying something that people can rent? Is the neighborhood going to go south? Because I've owned a lot of properties in pure rental areas and not always the best way to go, you know, is my experience. And so one of the things I think is important to understand when you're trying to be an investor, especially in this time, is there's a difference between a landlord and an investor. I'm curious your opinion of those two definitions, because I think those are people that really do not understand the definition of team, leverage, mentorship, help, and the one that says, I'm doing it all on my own.
Yeah, you could be a landlord and an investor. That could be one person. Or you could be the landlord and someone else be the investor. You could describe an apartment complex that way. The syndicator is really the landlord and investor, and then the passive investors are just investors. If you're managing your own portfolio of single family, then you're both the landlord and the investor. If you hire Mind to run the property for you, then you're just the investor.
Yeah. And the one thing I've learned that I would say is that one thing we can both agree on is that wealth is not created on your own.
I totally agree.
You cannot do it all on your own, right? Yeah. I mean, there's no way that you would have been able to run 11 businesses and have the lifestyle that you wanted.
No way.
No way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Impossible. So you've got to ask yourself, what is it you need to do differently to make that happen? And I'm gonna stop this screen share for a minute. I'm gonna see if we have any questions out here in Facebook land. There seems to be a lot. And let me see if I can go back here to this. There we go. All right, who wanted some questions? Always focus on solutions, not problems. Same thing. How do you find the deals? So Sean wants to know how to find the deals. I would say the way that you find the deals is you've got to understand what is a deal for you, first of all, right? Because if you don't know what a deal is for you and you're not taught and educated correctly, you'll never know what a good deal is. And a good deal is probably walking past you every single day. And you want to know how to find the deals that match your goals and match your strategy. So Steve may say something is a good deal. I may say something else is a good deal. Everybody thinks something is a good deal based on their goals and based on their strategy. And I think it's important to understand what is a good deal.
How do you find the deals, though? The question. I can tell you that I have a group of 24 real estate agents that I work with. I have a group of 30 or 40 wholesalers that I work with. So I prefer a combination of realtors and wholesalers, but you notice that I have a lot of them. You can't do this with one or two realtors or one or two wholesalers. You need a large group of them if you're going to run a business.
Absolutely. And again, a business is built, it's the sum of the parts. It's the team. And, you know, and again, you'll have a chance, everyone watching, if you want, you'll have a chance to click on a link if you want to talk to Steve or myself after, you know, and have an in-depth conversation with us or our team. You'll be able to do that. And the key is really making sure that you understand what you're doing and what is right. I'm just looking at this thing. How do I manage when we're in isolation during coronavirus? So that's a good question. So look, this is truly how technology is showing how to get through this, right? You've got, you know, I know Mind is such a huge technology company that it's coming in so handy right now because of this situation of understanding what is a good deal, what is a bad deal from remote by the software. Also, you're understanding once you have the deal, how do you manage it remotely in a situation like this? Even little things like collecting rent. You know, how do you get the rent from the resident? How do you show the property? How do you get them the keys? How do you do an inspection of the property? These are the things that you really need to think about when it starts getting into situations like this. And this may evolve into new business models. I mean,
Awesome.
I don't know if it will, but I definitely think that the people that can't show their properties, the people that can't do inspections, the people that cannot do these things, or the management companies that can't do these things, I think are going to feel the hit and the burden, because I know Mind is doing, I mean, I forgot the number of visual inspections they're doing, virtual inspections they're doing, or the amount of, you know, they're still leasing and getting people in the properties, but they're doing it all virtually. And so that's something that I don't know how they do it. I don't know the technology behind it. I know there's a lot of smart people working on it, but it's definitely something that I don't understand how to get that and how to understand it. What's the best way to find homeowners who are about to default on their mortgage?
There's multiple services out there. It depends on what part of the country you're in.
Yeah.
So what I would do is simply Google that, or Nick, join a local real estate investor club.
Yeah.
It sounds like, you know, when I hear people ask a basic question like that, which is a good question, they're usually out there by themselves. They're not a member of a club yet. That's an answer for a local, that's a question for a local real estate investor club.
Yeah. One of the things, you know, from what I recall when I was doing all that back in the day, you know, Texas is a non-disclosure state. So you can't get NODs, notice of defaults, and things like that in Texas. There's information you can get, but there's things you cannot get.
Right.
So again, every state and municipality is different, but deals are happening. I mean, look, hard money lenders, they don't want to hold these properties that people have to refinance on and can't get out of. They need their money to go and rotate on. I'd be talking to wholesaling people that have wholesale businesses. They need all these people. We're in the business to hold, right? They're not in the business to hold. So what do they want? They want to talk to people that want to buy and hold, and they want, hey, you know what? This is a deal. I'll take advantage of it. Let's do this. And I think that this is the time that you start having those conversations with hard money lenders, with realtors, with, you know, taking a look at the software that Mind gives you for free and nationally. I mean, this is the time you start really looking at everything you have. And to me, this is the definition of being a business owner and understanding how your business operates, because this truly is the key to success, in my opinion. What are your thoughts?
Well, I couldn't agree more with the concept of having multiple sources for deals, which is, I think, the point you were making, that you need to have lists of foreclosures, lists of people who are delinquent, if you're in a state that does share that. You need to have realtors looking for deals for you. You need to have wholesalers looking for deals. Was that what you were talking about?
Yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah.
I do want to say one thing. There was one guy that asked, he put up a question about how they can reach me. You can actually email me and I'll send you a link to find out more about my mentoring. It's just asksteve@getrealwealth.com. You can ask me a question or you can ask me about mentoring. I don't care.
Yeah.
Just email me a question or email me about the mentoring. It's asksteve@getrealwealth.com.
And truly, this is, you know, I think that people's true colors come out in times like this. This is when you see who really is who, and who's being, you know, honest and who's being legit. And I think it's important, you know, again, Steve and I are here. We really are 6 feet apart. It's just the way the mirrors and the lighting is that shows us not 6 feet apart, but we are. But I think that what you're seeing is you're seeing people come out and try to help. And that's all we're trying to do, right? We're trying to give you our knowledge and our education of what you can and cannot do. And so for those of you that are, you know, just imagine that you are sitting in your seat, right? You're sitting at a desk like Steve and I are sitting at, and you have a conversation with me. You have a conversation with Steve. You understand what your strategy is. You understand what your goal is. Once you know all of those things, then you say, okay, you know what? I'm ready to buy. I'm either ready to syndicate an apartment complex, get into a syndication, or I'm looking to buy a single family property. And let's say you want to buy a single family and you say, you know what? I think I'm going to use that software like Investimint. And you don't move from your desk. You're still sitting at your desk. And you go in and you look in the software and you find a property in North Carolina that aligns with your goals and is part of your strategy. Or maybe it's an apartment complex somewhere that you say this matches and this aligns, right? Either one, I don't really care, because again, that's the tactic as part of your strategy. But whatever you find aligns with your strategy. And you're still sitting in your seat, and then you close on that property. And then you get a management company like Mind or anyone else, and they start managing that asset for you. And once they start managing that asset, they get the property make ready, they get the property rented. Then all of a sudden, you get a nice little deposit into your bank account called rent. You still have not left your desk. To me, that is the definition of an investor. You don't leave your desk. You have teams doing things for you. You utilize the resources of people around you. And the people that are truly successful, I have found, are the ones that take advantage and take action. And they take furious action. If you want a big change in your life, you have to take big action. I tell people, I'm like, if you want to create wealth that you can retire, 20 years ahead of schedule, that doesn't happen by chance. That happens because you take massive action and you take focused intention on what you're doing. And I think that that's the one key that people miss, is they don't take that massive action. They think that they can kind of straddle the fence, right? I'm going to sign up for Steve's courses, but I'm not really going to go to all the classes. I'm not really going to learn anything. How many people sign up, don't do anything, and have unlimited success, would you say?
Zero,
right? It's a pretty even number. It's pretty even, zero.
Pretty easy to figure that one out.
Pretty easy to figure out. Same thing in anything, what it is in real estate. And again, so it's a matter of taking action. And I'm going to share my screen one last time here before we kind of, let's see, where is it? No, it's this one. No, where's this one? It's hidden. It's hidden. So there it is. One of the things I think it's important to think about is when you are sharing your screen, know what you're sharing. All right, so present here. So one of the things, and again, you just got to imagine, what do you want your life to look like? That at the end of the day, that's what you want. You've got to imagine your why. You've got to imagine your outcome. You've got to take action. One of the things that obviously Mind allows me to do this, one of the things that they're doing during this COVID-19 is they're keeping business open. Right? They are taking massive action to keep properties rented, to keep residents safe. We have lower delinquencies than anyone else. We've adapted all the leasing. We have a ticker of showing actually what our delinquencies are on our website. I don't know if I showed you that. We're actually showing what we are nationally. And they've got an actual COVID task force that meets every day to talk about what's going on, what government agencies are helping owners, helping residents. To me, that's intentional action, right? They're not just sitting there going, well, how do we pay our rent? How do we do this? That to me is trying to help the community. And so you really got to ask yourself, who do you want to partner with and what it is that you want? One of the things that we are doing and that I'm doing, and again, this is just with Mind, and if you want to talk to Steve, you can, but really ask yourself, if you want to have a strategy session and you want to talk to me or someone else, you want to get deals delivered to you, right? You want to have access to the software, local experts in any of our 16 regions. This is the ability to easily, without even blinking an eye, double your net worth and achieve your goal. To me, that's just priceless. I cannot put a price on achieving my goal, right? If somebody says they'll take it,
that is priceless. It's
priceless, right? They've got a price on it. We're trying to do this for free, right? All what we want you to do is have a conversation with us and come up and figure out what you want. Because I think the biggest problem we all have is nobody really knows what we want. Nobody really knows, you know, we all want to get on this Ferris wheel of wealth. We want to get on this Ferris wheel of being successful, but nobody knows how to do it, right? You have a clear path to show people how to exponentially get on this super highway of syndication, apartments, houses, whatever it is. We have a way to show you how to make it passive that you don't even have to worry about it. Why you would not take a free conversation, you can click on this link, talkwithstever.com. We'll figure out what works for you. If you want to talk to Steve Davis, you can. At the end of the day, do something. I don't care what you do, right? I don't care if you talk to your uncle. Just do something, because that is the key. Not anything wrong with anyone's uncles, but that is the key to building wealth. So if you want to talk to me, you can type in talktostevr.com. If they want to talk to you, how do they do it?
There's a page at getrealwealth.com, getrealwealth.com, and you can reach out to me there.
That's the best thing. And guys, like I said, I don't want to take any more of your time. I appreciate everyone watching tonight. And, you know, one of the things we really hope is that as you have been doing this and as you've been learning, you've got, we got it right here. Email Steve Davis from Real Wealth. Look at that. You got a fan. Look at that. You got a fan in there already.
Oh, that's
Signed up.
Patty. I know him.
Awesome. Any questions we can answer? If you have, we have like 31 comments. So I guess we do have some questions here. Let me see. Let's see what we got. We got a couple minutes, so we will take questions. How can I find out about mentorship? So he gave you that. Let me make this a little bit bigger and we can see what other questions we may have. Let's see here. All right, I'm going to scroll back up, see if I can answer some of these questions. I prefer not to ever invest based on speculation. Cash flow is king for me and prefer to eliminate as much risk as possible. That makes sense. I would agree with that. And again, I don't think there's a right or wrong way to invest. I think there's multiple ways to invest. And I think the key is whatever matches you and whatever matches your goals. Where is the chart in the portfolio builder? If you click on the link, Sean, at askstevr.com, which I think we can have somebody put in the link down there, we can definitely help you out. Best way to find homeowners. Okay, we already talked about that. There will be a live stream workshop on the 16th. Is that you?
Yeah.
Okay. Look, Patty.
I love you, Patty.
Patty's a fan. Patty's a fan. How do you find pre-foreclosures?
You can buy foreclosure lists.
Yeah.
Yeah. They do have that here in Houston. Foreclosure listing service. I think it's FLS.com in the greater Houston area.
Yeah.
But every city is going to have their own source. And again, the best way to find it, because everybody should be a member. If you're going to be a real estate investor, you should be a member of a real estate investor club.
Absolutely.
And they will put you in touch with all that. You will make so many contacts from just being a member of a club, even a small club.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Again, this is, if you want to be, this is the pool we're in, right? You know, you want to be in this pool, you got to swim with the fish that are similar to you. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's okay.
Absolutely.
I'll use that. Okay. What's the name of the software? Investimate. Yeah, it's Investimate, Patty. Let's see. How do you find reputable real estate investment clubs in Houston? You're talking to one right now that you can do. Obviously, you can talk to him. There's other ones that you can speak with.
There's multiple good clubs in Houston.
You know,
but yeah, please give us a shot at getrealwealth.com.
Yeah, I mean, look, why not just go right to the source? I mean, why would you want to talk to someone who's never done it or you don't know, as opposed to knowing that this guy has done it and he's on the path? Thank you both for the webinar. Looking forward to Get Real Wealth live stream. Patty? Thoughts on investing now or waiting a few months to find great deals in a regular market? Prices go up in the summer, however, CV19 has changed this quite a bit. Mauricio, I would say that I would be watching numbers right now. I would be watching the data because you will see it will start to go. It's a lot slower than the stock market, obviously.
Right.
But it will go, and when it goes, that's when you want to be ready. But you should not be looking at it the first time. Like, you should be looking at these numbers daily or at least consecutively to know when the numbers do drop.
I can tell you this. I've gotten no less than 12 phone calls where people have said, hey, I was looking at this deal, they dropped the price 10, they dropped the price 20. So there's good deals out there right now. So I wouldn't wait. You've got to wait till after COVID's over, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But as soon as it's over, you need to start analyzing deals and look for those deals that are 20, 30,000 below market.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, the thing is it's like there's never going to be a right time, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But you've got to. The only way you know is by being educated and making educated decisions, and that really is the key: is making those educated decisions. And again, that goes back to having conversations with Steve and myself, making that commitment, saying, you know what, I'm really going to do this, and I'm going to make sure that this happens. Someone asked where you were. I saw it and then I lost it.
Where I am?
Yeah, someone said where you are, where you're located.
In Houston, right outside the Beltway 8, Kirkwood and I-10, if you know the Houston area.
Yeah. Alec wants to know, what's the biggest issue you've faced on the commercial end?
The biggest issue? I think 2008 was getting, that's got to be the most challenging, was getting bridge loans and refinancing during the recession. But luckily, everything went smoothly, even though it was scary at times.
Yeah, look, you're going to have some scary times. You're going to be driving on the ledge on two wheels, and that's normal and that's natural, and it's okay to be scared. I think using facts and data to make your decision and not fear and emotion is key in something like this. Never let fear and emotion drive a business decision. And, again, this is when expertise like myself and Steve come into play, and you have these conversations to say, what should I do? What do you think is the best move? Should I buy? I mean, I've talked to people that thought they should sell everything, and by the time I'm done talking to them, they're like, I'm going to buy 3 properties.
Yeah.
Because I was letting fear and emotion drive my decision. So again, there's not a right or wrong way. It depends on your situation. But again, make sure that you're educated in what you're doing and that you're having an educated conversation, which we've got no skin in the game, right? We want you to succeed. We want you to be successful and buy more properties. That's why we're giving you the opportunity to talk with me, to talk with Steve, to have that opportunity. So what is a KPI you use to see trends on the market, on days on market? What would you say? I would say price, first of all, and days on market.
Where's the question?
Great info. What is a KPI you use to see the trends, days on market, ? So like what would indicate that the market's going down?
Oh, I'm basing it on just hearing my students call me up and go, hey, I was looking at this deal. They just dropped it another 10,000. And I'm telling you, I've had 12 calls in the last week and a half of people telling me that. So I know prices are dropping. How would you find that out? You'd have to patrol in our city in Houston. It's har.com and watch the trends.
Yeah. And also I would tell you, if you go to our website, it's mind.co, MYND.co. We created a website landing page called the Situation Room. And on there, we are updating with the most up-to-date information of everything we can find, whether it's rent collected, delinquencies, any kind of information. I mean, we've had some of the highest profile people from Bigger Pockets interviewed on there with us, friends of ours. We've had a lot of people interviewed on these shows to get updates on what they're seeing. And I'll tell you what, there are some smart people out there that have a very interesting perceptions of what's going on and what's going to happen. So I recommend that you put that in there, put it in your favorites, and just take a look at it, because we are constantly, like I said, they're just updating this ticker that's showing up to date of rent collections and delinquencies. And there's going to be a trend. You're going to see a trend. I do not think that just because people paid April rent, we're out of this. I think that this is going to be a very long ripple effect. And I think May, June, July are going to be worse months and scarier months than what we're seeing. I mean, what do you think?
It just depends on how quickly these companies hire back as soon as the COVID response is over.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. It depends on how long this lasts. That is a very, very valid point. So again, I don't want to take up any more of anyone's time, especially mine and Steve's. tonight. But again, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Again, go to our websites. You can go to getrealwealth.com. You can talk to Steve Davis. You can go to talkwithstever.com. If you want to talk with me, go to Mind, MYND. And again, there's nothing that says that you should not be trying to help yourself and educate yourself more and more. This is the time that you will either create wealth or you could lose everything you own if you do not do this correctly and you are not strategized correctly. So again, I just want to thank everyone for watching. Hopefully this was helpful, and we will see everyone when this is all, well, we'll be back on all the time. But yeah. Anyways, guys, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you later.
Take care.
Bye-bye.